So basically, I wanted to ask you guys, what is the weirdest Batman movie you have seen? You might say it's the Killing Joke movie, because half the movie isn't even based on the comic and is supposedly trash. But, I mean, I haven't seen it, but based on what I've heard about it, it sounds like it's trash. You might even say it's Batman Ninja, which I tried watching, but it was so dang boring I couldn't keep watching the rest of the way through. You might say it's the Lego Batman movie, and I don't blame you there. You might say it's the 60s Batman movie, and again, I kind of can't blame you for that one. That one is pretty fucking weird. But to me, the weirdest Batman movie I've seen is also the most recent Batman movie I've seen. That movie is Batman: The Doom That Came to Gotham. This is the only Batman movie I have ever seen that has left me looking like the two people from that one SpongeBob episode with the gorilla in it. Now, before I actually start talking about this movie, I want to put in a quick disclaimer. I have never read the original comic that this movie is based on, so I don't know if it's any weirder or if it is just a better story and it just got lost in translation when they were adapting it. I'm still in the middle of reading Nightfall right now. I can't be reading something I genuinely do not care that much about because the movie was not very good. So, yeah. If the problem's fixed in the comics, don't worry about it. I just don't know that. Anyway, though, a good way to describe this movie is basically Batman meets Lovecraft. That's what it was supposed to be, and that's what it is. Now, going into this movie, you might think I should be expecting it to be weird
as shit.
And you'd be right. But here's the thing. The weirdness of the Lovecraft stuff makes the whole movie kind of convoluted to the point where barely anything really contributes to the plot all that much. Case in point...
Poison ivy, I'm told.
This movie has way too many villains. Normally, I wouldn't say something like that because, generally speaking, I don't think most movies have too many villains when other people say they do. For example, Spider-Man 3 doesn't have too many villains, Venom just isn't written very well. Amazing Spider-Man 2 doesn't have too many villains, you guys are just dumb. But this movie, none of the villains feel like they really did anything, even though they all, except for one, contribute to the plot in a meaningful way. That's a problem. There are at least 7 villains in this movie, if you count all of the characters who are traditionally Batman villains, and the one Lovecraft character that shows up at the end, that is clearly just supposed to be Cthulhu, but I guess they just didn't want to call him that for some reason. It's just like the old Justice League cartoon all over again. But that's not important. Guess how many of these characters actually contribute to the plot more than, once? If you guess none, then you're right. Here, let me tell you what every single one of these characters does in this movie. Harvey Dent shows up early on in the movie, running for mayor of Gotham. Then he gets pricked by poison ivy, and he develops a skin disease, which turns him into the portal into the realm of the Great Old Ones. And that's it. That's all he does. Killer Croc shows up for 2 fight scenes and then dies, but honestly, I wasn't expecting much from him, considering in this movie he's just a thug for Talia. Speaking of Talia, all she does is steal a book to resurrect her father, resurrect said father, and then die.
I'd rather like to think that under different circumstances, we'd be allies. Friends, perhaps.
Oh, Talia, let me tell you all about the kid you two could have had. On a serious note, though, why is Batman killing her here? Batman doesn't do that. I'm cool with it if it's Elseworlds normally, but this version of Batman just asks way too much like the normal version of him to be doing something like this. That's ridiculous, man. Anyway, all Ra's al Ghul does is get resurrected, and then he fights Batman, and he dies, like everybody else. By the way, why does he get to be called Cthulhu and not the monster in the movie who is literally Cthulhu? Then we have Mr. Freeze, who shows up at the beginning as a crazy person. Then he gets captured by Batman. He kills Dick Grayson and the equivalent of Jason Todd in this movie. Then he's captured by Ra's al Ghul's group, who kill him and release Poison Ivy. Speaking of Poison Ivy, after that, all she does is infect Harvey Dent, and then she goes off to try and kill Oliver Queen, who she... Oh.
Holy crap! You are creepy as shit.
Yeah. Anyway, she turns into this thing, and then her and Oliver Queen fight until they end up killing each other in the end. And that's all Poison Ivy does in this movie. Finally, we have the worst character in this movie, the Penguin, who does absolutely nothing this entire movie. He appears at the very beginning as the person that Bruce is looking for in the Arctic when he finds Mr. Freeze, and then he shows up a couple times and does literally nothing and then goes away, and that's it. Why is he even in this movie? You could just give Mr. Freeze his role and nothing would change. Like, why is he even here? And that's not even mentioning that Man-Bat's technically in this movie, and all he does is literally already be dead by the time we see him. And Batman just takes something from him to help him find the book that Talia needs to resurrect Rosh. Like, what? And of course, the Cthulhu guy doesn't do anything. They try summoning him, and then he's just defeated by Etrigan, who also does nothing up until that point in the movie, aside from show up at the very beginning and then get trapped inside of a bottle or some shit like that. And that's not even mentioning the heroes in this movie. I mean, aside from Batman and Green Arrow, none of them really do anything either. Dick and Jason just die, and then Cassandra's just there. She doesn't really do anything. She's just kind of there. And Oracle is basically just Madam Web mixed with the Long Island Medium, and I cannot believe I just said that, but it's true. You know what, I'm just going to move on to the next part before this gets any weirder. But just know that even if it seems like they all did some sort of contribution here, it really didn't amount to much because of just how many of them there were and how little each of them did to feed into the plot compared to some of the more important characters.
Now I am chosen by him to be his messenger to the world.
Some of the characters in this movie have their name changed from their prime counterparts. Jason Todd's name is Sanjay Todd, and Cassandra Cain's name is Kylie Cain. Now, both of those names are similar enough to the original comic versions that you'll be able to figure out who they are. But I will give you one guess as to what Mr. Freeze's name is in this. And if you guessed Victor Freeze...
The GCPD wants to transfer Nora Fries to Arkham Medical Wing.
Wrong!
Why did Gotham pronounce his name like that? That's just not right. Literally nothing else has ever pronounced it that way. It's always pronounced as Freeze, even though it is spelled like fries. What the heck, man? Anyway, as I was saying, if you guessed the name of Mr. Freeze in this movie was Victor Freeze, then I hate to break it to you, but...
You're wrong!
His name is Grendon. Yeah, I don't know how we're supposed to know this is Mr. Freeze either. The only clues we get are his appearance and the fact that he can't survive outside of a Sub-Zero environment. If I hadn't looked it up halfway through watching the movie, I might have not even known that was intended to be him. They could have at least made his name closer to Victor Freeze, because at that point, at least we would have an idea that that's who he was supposed to be, but right now it's kind of hard to tell unless you are paying really close attention. Well, the final battle kinda sucks. You see, Batman turns into this weird man-bat creature thing and fights the Cthulhu-ized Ra's al Ghul. He then kills him by making him stare at the Great Old One, and if you don't know Lovecraft lore, you should know that makes you go insane. And he goes insane. Then Batman can't defeat the Great Old One, so he releases Etrigan to do it for him. Look, I get that he, isn't very powerful, but I feel like he's earned the fight against the Great Old One by this point in the movie. Etrigan has done literally nothing up to this point, so why is it that Batman, the main character of this movie, isn't even the one that gets to fight at the end? He just leaves. And that's it for him. He's living in a bell tower now because he's a bat creature and he can't turn back. Yeah, this was dumb.
Was that the bite of 87?
Keep him away.
So in conclusion, this movie's really fucking weird. It'll keep you glued the whole time because you'll want to know what happens, but at the end of the day, it's kind of an M movie. It's not good, but it's not bad either. So, yeah. I can't say I recommend it. I can't say I don't recommend it. Watch it if you want. Also, can we just talk about how the suits in this movie looks almost identical to the one from Gotham by Gaslight? Like, I genuinely thought this was a sequel to that movie before I saw the trailers.